What does Brady need to prove now in Tampa?
Not a damn thing. As far as I'm concerned, his legacy is cemented. We all know this. But if there was something that he wanted to peel from all of this, it's really to show that he's not done. That's it. Nothing more. To show that last year was simply flukish from the standpoint that he was bereft of weapons. And because he didn't have the weapons necessary in order to be productive, that's why he was in a position to take the hits that he's taken in terms of slippage that people are alluding to and things of that nature. I loved yesterday watching ESPN with folks talking about how numerous the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had examined them, watched tape and whatever, and saw no mechanical deficiencies, just the kind of things that you look for from a quarterback, drop stepping and coming back and flinging the football, the velocity on the throws, et cetera, et cetera. They were talking about there was no flagrant slippage on the part of Tom Brady. When they talked about him holding the ball a little bit too long, you were talking about the relationship that he had with those young receivers, whether or not guys were running right routes, the level of faith that he had in them to run those right routes, keeping the turnovers at a minimum, et cetera, et cetera. There are a plethora of things that could have gone in to why you saw Tom Brady looking the way that he looked last year. You don't anticipate that's going to be the case this year, and I think that Tom Brady knows that, which is why he elected to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's not going to Tampa Bay if there was no Mike Evans there, no Mike Evans caliber of player, no Chris Godwin caliber of player, no O.J. Howard or Cameron Brake kind of player with Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich calling the shots on the offense, etc. Tom Brady's not going to someplace like that if he didn't have weapons. He might as well have stayed in New England if that were the case. So I think that really, to me, it's slim to nothing that he has to prove. But if you want to peel something out of it that he wants to prove, is that last year was an aberration. He still has more left than people realize.
Tom Brady has to prove that he can be great without Bill Belichick. That's what he has to prove. Because people like Stephen A., and there are a lot of them out there who say Tom Brady hasn't really slipped, some say at all, physically or not appreciably. It's really what he had around him, or rather didn't have around him last year, even though I would counter with, well, Bill Belichick saw slippage. That's why he designed the team around the running game and especially the defense the last couple of years. It was good enough to win a Super Bowl 2 years ago and to win 12 games this past season. And the reason he did that is he could see that's the way, given the kind of quarterback Tom Brady now is, that they could win. Good game manager, could still be big on third down when you needed him. So those kind of guys operate well, running game defense. That's what Belichick gave him. That's why they won a Super Bowl and then followed up with 12 wins. But for people like Stephen A., who are saying, no, mechanically and physically, it's all there, the arm strength, the accuracy, it's really just the receivers. He didn't have anyone to throw to, get separation, run the right routes, have rapport with, all that stuff. Well, okay, he's going to a team that's loaded on that side of the ball, even has an underrated defense and a great coach. He's going to that place. So, Stephen A., if there's no slippage, then as you would say, no excuses. He should be great. So if he's not great with the Bucs, then I think it would be fair to say, for people like you, I'll say Brady got old. I thought he was old before this. But you're going to have to say, okay, it was Bill Belichick. Brady couldn't be great without him. That's what your position and people who take that position are saying about this season, whether they realize it or not.
Excuse me 1 second, Dan, before you get in here. And Max, I just want to share this with you. Bill Belichick coached exactly 100 games before Tom Brady. Do you know what his record was? 42 in 58.
Doesn't matter, Molly. Molly, it doesn't matter because that was with the Cleveland Browns, who, by the way, he coached to the playoffs. Once he got to the Patriots, without Tom Brady, he was 13 and 6.
Let's let Dan get in here.
Say.
I think it's just fair to mention that.
Go ahead, Dan. I'll deal with him in a second. Go ahead, Dan.
What about 13 and 6? Want to mention that? Is that
to
fair?
your point, he was 5 and 13. All right, so Max, I'm going to rip that apart. He was 5 and 13 with Drew Bledsoe in New England before he made the switch to Tom Brady. The 13 and 6, 10 of those wins are with Matt Castle the year after they went 16 and 0. So that's a pretty steep drop off from being 16 and 0. 2 of those wins are with Jimmy Garoppolo, who just took a team to the Super Bowl, and one of those wins was with Jacoby Brissett, who went 5 and 2 as a starter last year. So he didn't go 13 and 6 with one of my kids playing quarterback. I think Tom Brady's got a lot to prove. I really do, and I think that we can get that from him saying that he has a lot to prove. Tom Brady, when he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, on his social media said, no one cares what you've done in the past. They only care what you're doing right now. And that's evidence enough to tell me that Tom Brady still thinks he has enough to prove. And maybe it's because he's hostage to his own success. The standard level and the expectation level is so ridiculously high that that's where we're going to measure Tom Brady at. And he's got to go prove, to Max's point, that he can go do that without who many and all of us deem as the greatest coach, certainly in a salary cap driven league, in Bill Belichick ever. The second thing is this. Tom Brady could have retired. I believe that he was kind of shoved out the door from New England, but he very easily could have retired. And none of us would have said anything. We would have said, greatest career ever, great. But he decided to continue to play because he thinks that he is still good enough. And so he now needs to go prove that the decision to continue to play was the right choice. Also, yes, I think that there were other opportunities to go play team-wise, maybe not 10, but he chose the team that has the worst winning percentage in the history of the NFL. I don't think that's by mistake. The guy who deems himself the greatest winner, or in his mind at least I assume, thinks he's the greatest winner of all time, wants to take on the challenge of, I was the guy who took the organization with the worst winning percentage ever, and I took them to the Super Bowl, and I won the Super Bowl. And so I think we just need to listen to Tom Brady. He himself has told us, I still have a lot left to prove.
What does their lifetime winning percentage mean anything in Tampa? They won 7 games last year. He's not taking over a team from 10 or 20 years ago. He's taking over this team.
They haven't been to the playoffs in 12 years. They haven't been to the playoffs.
What's that got to do with anything? He just said, what are you doing right now? He's taking over a 7-win team with a quarterback who scored more points for the opposition than anyone in the NFL.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.